All right, everyone. Hey, our next podcaster is an amazing guy that actually has the longest running podcast based on novel marketing out there. He just is a wealth of information. He's been podcasting for a while, almost quite the godfather of podcasting, definitely here in the Austin community out there. But he is the founder and CEO of Author Media. He travels the world speaking events to help people create grow, famous, and rich. Thousands of creators have attended his popular workshops, breakout sessions, and online events. He's also hosts Novel Marketing, the longest-running book marketing podcast in the world. He is a very big influence here in the Austin podcasting community, and we're honored to have him on here. And you guys, you've got some good stuff tonight, I imagine, Thomas. How's it going tonight?
It's going all right. I'm excited, although I feel like I'm a little off topic because instead of talking about podcasting, I'd like to talk about writing a book and how it can help with your podcast. Yeah,
I think it's great. You say you probably got a couple slides if I know you.
No, actually, I was just going to talk, but
okay,
but I have something I was kind of thinking about it. Like, if you're a podcaster, what are some of the benefits of writing a book? And so I have 7 of them, and they all start with C. So
I love it. So
Baptist preacher.
There you go. I'm going to drop off here and just give you the full screen, brother. All right.
All right. So the first benefit of writing a book is that it gives you clarity. It helps you hone your message and it helps you think through your thoughts in a way that's different than podcasting. Podcasting helps you do it as well, but podcasting is more kind of off the cuff. You're speaking. It's using a different part of your brain than looking at the screen and editing. And it also forces you to focus your brand, which is really beneficial. And I got a fortune cookie last week. It said, good writing is clear thinking made visible. And I really like that. And I think that the clearer your thinking is, the more it helps you in every aspect of your life. The second benefit of writing a book, if you're a podcaster, is craft. You learn how to be a better writer. The carpenter doesn't just build the house builds the carpenter. And this is very true for writers writing a book. And whether you're writing an email or a blog post or a tweet, the better you are at writing, the more powerful you will become. And the more influential you'll become. The next benefit is credibility. You will have an edge over everyone else without a book. People will see you as an expert once you write a book. In fact, we saw just 30 minutes ago, Adam Lewis was holding up his book on camera. Tell me that didn't boost his credibility in your eyes. There's something powerful about having a book with your photo on the back or your photo on the front, if it's nonfiction, is really powerful for boosting credibility. You can say that it's the world's most convincing business card. It's an expensive business card, but it's a powerful business card and one that will last you for years. And I often meet with people, and them writing a book was what unlocked the next steps in their career, whether it was helping them get on stage or helping them in other ways. Speaking of which, that's the fourth benefit, is connection. So having a book helps unlock doors for you, like I was saying. It makes getting speaking gigs a lot easier. It makes getting invited on podcasts a lot easier. It makes easier to get booked as a consultant, and it allows you to charge higher consulting fees, right? Let's say you're pitching a company to bring you on to help with their problems, or you're talking with somebody about coaching them with their problems, and it's between you and the other guy, and you have the book and the other guy does not. Or you have a book and a podcast and the other guy does not. I mean, you are so clearly the expert at that point. It's not even a contest. And I'll say that books are great ways of promoting podcasts, and podcasts are great ways of promoting books. In fact, some of the New York Times bestselling books last year, the enduring ones, were by podcasters. There is a huge spot in the market where podcasters are kind of dominating that, because the kind of people who listen to podcasts are also the kind of people who read books, and more accurately, are the kind of people who listen to audiobooks. But they also buy paper books too. But audiobooks are really powerful, especially amongst the podcast audience. It's no mistake that Audible advertises so aggressively on podcasts, because that's where their people are. And if you've been listening to podcasts for any amount of time, you have probably heard an Audible ad, and there's a reason for that. All right, so the next benefit of writing a book is celebrity. After people read your book, they will have a higher opinion of you, and they'll have a higher opinion of your company. I will say I read an entire book about Zappos before I ever purchased shoes from Zappos. And I had no intention of buying shoes from Zappos. I was a happy Walmart shoe buying person. I'm not a fancy shoe guy. But after I read the book by the CEO of Zappos, I was like, I've got to experience this customer service that he talks about and see if the shipping really is as good as they say. And I will say I had a great experience buying from Zappos. It was really expensive, but it was a really good experience. And I will say, I wrote a book 5 years ago that I don't do anything with. It's not connected with my brand. I just wrote it because people begged me to, and I'd written a viral blog post. And anyway, million people read the blog post, and I felt compelled to write the book. And I still get invited to be on podcasts about this book that I do not touch in any way. I do not market. The book is still selling. It's still making money. People are still listening to the audiobook, and I still get guest interview invites. In fact, I had to kind of think about if I wanted to continue doing guest interviews on this book because it's so disconnected with my brand. But that's the power of writing a book, especially a book that people talk about, is that it leads to ongoing exposure. The next is capital. Now, sure, if you're a best-selling author, you can make money with your book, but most authors don't make money from the book itself. They make, especially in nonfiction, they make money around the book. They make money because they're able to charge higher speaking fees, that they're able to charge higher consulting fees. They create courses or online programs that are companions to the book, which is where the real money is. But I have friends as authors, and we've had guests on my podcasts who are making 6 digits, and one is breaking in on 7 digits a year just with royalties from the book. So while that's not what most people experience, it is experienced by some, and it's experienced by both traditional authors and independent authors. You'll hear a lot of people saying that only one way is the true way. And I will say I have had guests on my podcasts, both of them, who've been successful in both ways. In fact, some people who've been successful in both ways, the one person. So I'm not a partisan. I'm not an indie only person or a traditional only person. So there's a reason why many of the top CEOs either write a book themselves or have a book written about them, because it's such a powerful marketing tool. And if you see it as a marketing tool, it's incredibly inexpensive. Even if you hire ghostwriters, you compare it to a TV campaign or an online advertising campaign, it's really fast. And so the final benefit, and if I have time, I'll tell you how to publish a book in 5 minutes. The final benefit is the challenge of it. Writing a book is hard work. I'm not the kind of person who says writing a book is for everyone. It's for hard work, and it takes dedication. It takes some grit, but there's an amazing feeling that you get after having done something difficult. And after you write a book, for the rest of your life, you'll be able to call yourself an author, and that is worth it. And you get to put in your Twitter bio, author, right? It's very psychologically satisfying. So anyway, those are the benefits to writing a book. I'll just real briefly, if I have time, Scott, talk about
time.
Okay.
You got time. You still got 5-6 minutes. You're good.
All right. So here's how to publish a book. I'll give you both the traditional process and the the indie process for nonfiction. Fiction's totally different ballgame. And on all of these things, I'm racing through it, but I have episodes you can listen to for free that will go deeper into that thing. So step 1 is you write a proposal for the traditional process. This is like a business plan for your book, and you're going to use it in all the next steps. You use that proposal to then find an agent. They're called literary agents. They're kind of like Hollywood talent agents. They're kind of matchmakers between authors and publishers. And with the help of the agent, you then find a publishing house who will publish your book. And then in step 4, you write the book. So a lot of people, if they haven't done their research, if they haven't studied, if they haven't listened to our podcast, they write the book first. And that's a mistake, because the agent and the publisher are going to give you feedback on how to make your book more appealing to readers or to publishers. Your agent will help make it more appealing to publishers and to readers. The publisher will give you feedback on how to make it more appealing to readers. And all of that feedback affects how the book is written. So you write the book, then you launch the book, and then finally you do ongoing marketing for the book. Now for independent publishing, and this is where you're paying the money yourself as opposed to the publisher paying the money, where it's much more risk for you, but you also get a much bigger chunk of each individual book sale. So there's a lot to be said about the pros and cons that I won't go into, but they both can work. And the process for indie is you write the book. So you write the book first, then you find and work with a developmental editor. This is somebody who edits your ideas. And then you find and work with a copy editor. This is a different editor who edits your words. A lot of authors make the mistake of skipping that developmental edit, and their book is much weaker as a result. And this is where indie books get their reputation for being poor written. They're not poor written, or they don't have to be, but they often are if they skip the developmental edit. Then you hire a cover designer to design your cover. You typeset your book. You either do it yourself with software like Vellum, or you hire a typesetter to do it for you. And then you get your book printed and published. And I'll tell you, if you're doing it and it's your first book, just do it on Amazon. Amazon has a program for printing the paper book and the Kindle book, and it's very easy to use and basically free. So there's all these companies that for $3,000 will push the buttons on Amazon for you. Save your $3,000 for marketing and for a good cover designer, and push the buttons on Amazon yourself. It's not hard. And then finally, once you're published, then you do ongoing marketing. And I have some resources to help you. My 2 podcasts, Novel Marketing, which, as Scott said, is the longest running marketing podcast for authors in the world. And we talk about publishing and marketing. We don't talk too much about craft. If you're wanting to learn about how to not write with adjectives, this is not the podcast for you. Our ideal listener is anyone, though, who wants to become a best-selling author. There's some really good craft podcasts out there. We're just not that. And our ideal guest is anyone who's done something innovative to market their book. And then Christian Publishing Show does talk about craft and everything else. It's kind of broader in terms of topic, but also more focused in terms of it focuses on the CVA market specifically, the Christian writing market. And our ideal listener is anyone who wants to write a Christian book, and our ideal guest is a best-selling Christian author.
Now, you've also got a great podcast that you did for a while, stopped it, but it's basically, 30 episodes on how to monetize your podcast too? You want to talk a little about that?
Sure. So I have a third podcast that is been fully mothballed. The episodes are hosted on archive.org even. So I don't even know how many. I am suspecting that it's actually perhaps like just as popular now as it was when I was making it live. But you can think of it as like a mini podcast. It's called the Creative Funding Show. It's creativefunding.show. And it's all about how to make money with your podcasts. I'm making on Novel Marketing right now around $1 per download per month. So I've done a really good job monetizing that podcast. And I learned / explain how I did it in the podcast Creative Funding Show. So if you're wanting to learn how to make money with your podcast, I really break it down. But I will say, you do have to get listeners. You got to get that listener. You have to not just get listeners, but you have to thrill listeners. People have to love you and really be thankful for the value that you give them in your podcast. And that's the top button on your shirt. And if you get that right, all the money buttons will line up down below it. And if you haven't figured that button out, you're not ready to talk about money. And I find a lot of podcasters, they just spent a lot of money on gear and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to make this money back. And they start talking about money too soon. You need to thrill your audience first. But once you have a thrilled audience, there's a lot of ways that they can help you fund that podcast. And we talk about that on the podcast, the Creative Funding Show.
I love that analogy. Thrill your audience first. Monetize, it's just like the top button. If you don't have the top button, everything else is going to be off. That's awesome. I love that analogy. Now you're also going to be speaking in Houston here in February too, at the Spark Christian Podcasting Summit, February 20th and 21st, right? Or 21st, 22nd?
That's right. I don't remember the dates off the top of my head, but that sounds about right. And I'm going to be giving a talk about podcast editing, which in some ways is not a very fun topic, but it's such an important topic to giving your podcast an edge. And if you're wondering, why are some podcasts at the top of the list and some podcasts just can't break in, often editing is the difference. In fact, if you look at the top podcasts, almost all of them are highly edited podcasts. And I'll be teaching on how you can do that yourself.
Awesome. Thomas, what's the best way for the people to reach out to you, to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Novelmarketing.com and christianpublishingshow.com. Both of those will take you to the respective websites where you can connect to me there.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. Petcha Pod Pitch here. Thanks for being there. You go.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and podcast prosper, right? But hey, thanks so much for being a shining symbol here in the awesome podcasting community and sharing out there as well. You've got a big heart, and you're always giving of everywhere you've been. Whether it's been a local meetup at New Media Summit or wherever, man, you've got a big heart and it shows. So thank you for doing that. And
awesome.
Continue to give, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. See you later. All right. We are in the home stretch, just about everybody.